There is a community in eastern Ohio that has no hedge fund managers, no venture capitalists, no inherited trust funds. The average household earns somewhere around $45,000 a year, roughly what a mid-level office administrator makes in Columbus. And yet, by every serious measure of household net worth, they sit comfortably inside the wealthiest tier of American families. Not because they got lucky, not because they work harder than you, because they operate under 3 financial rules that the modern lending system has spent decades making sure never become common knowledge. I found those rules in Ezekiel's Ledger, a Lancaster County farm accounting book from 1887 that I have been working through for the better part of 2 years. The entries look mundane on the surface: crop yields, tool repairs, community loans extended and repaid. But the architecture underneath those entries, the structure of how wealth moved and stayed and compounded inside that community, generation after generation, without a single bank loan, without a single interest payment bleeding out to an outside institution, tells a story that no personal finance framework I have ever encountered comes close to capturing. The average American household will transfer somewhere between $280,000 and $340,000 in pure interest payments to financial institutions over a working lifetime. Money that builds nothing, produces nothing, and never comes back. The Amish transfer zero. That difference does not stay neutral over time. It compounds. And by the 3rd generation, it produces a wealth gap that looks, from the outside, like a mystery rooted in religion or culture or discipline. It is none of those things. It is arithmetic. 3 specific rules, applied consistently across generations. Ezekiel wrote them down in 1887. I am going to show them to you now. I want to give you a number first, not an opinion, not a theory, a number. The median American household net worth today sits at approximately $192,000. That includes the house, the retirement account, the car, everything, minus every dollar owed. Now here is the number that stopped me cold when I first pulled it from a 2022 Amish economic survey conducted jointly by Elizabethtown College and the Young Center for Anabaptist and Pietist Studies. The estimated median net worth of an Amish household in Lancaster County runs between $400,000 and $1,200,000, depending on land holdings, with 0 mortgage debt, 0 student loans, 0 revolving credit card balances, 0 participation in the financial products that the average American family pays into every single month of their working lives. That gap is not an accident. That gap is a system. And the system has 3 rules. Rules that Ezekiel recorded in his 1887 Lancaster County Ledger, not as financial advice, but as community law. Rules that the Amish treat as foundational as any principle of their faith. Rules that the modern lending industry has had every structural incentive to ensure you never think about clearly. Let me show you exactly what those rules are, why they work, and why the math behind them is so uncomfortable that I want you to have it in front of you the next time you open a credit card statement. The first rule begins with a German word that every Amish child learns before they learn arithmetic: Schuldfreiheit, freedom from debt. Not the reduction of debt, not the management of debt. Freedom from it as a moral and practical absolute. In Ezekiel's ledger, the word appears on the very first page, before any account entry, almost as a header over everything that follows. It is the operating premise of the entire document. Now here is what Schuldfreiheit means in mathematical terms, because this is not theology, and this is compound interest running in reverse. The average American household carries approximately $104,000 in total debt across mortgage, auto loans, student loans, and credit cards. At a blended average interest rate of roughly 7%, that household is paying approximately $7,280 per year in pure interest. Money that produces nothing, builds nothing, and vanishes permanently into the accounts of the institutions that issued the debt. Over a 30-year working life, that figure compounds into something genuinely staggering, Conservatively, $280,000 to $340,000 in lifetime interest payments from a single average household. That is not the debt itself. That is the fee for carrying it. The Amish pay none of that. A fee, zero. Every dollar that exits an average American household as interest stays inside an Amish household as capital. And capital, unlike interest payments, does not disappear. It compounds forward. A family that preserves $7,000 per year in avoided interest and redirects it into productive land or community-backed enterprise, compounded over 30 years at even a modest 5% return, accumulates over $465,000 in additional net worth from one rule: from simply refusing to pay the fee. Ezekiel understood this not through financial modeling but through direct observation. On page 12 of his ledger, he documents two neighboring families. One that took on a mill loan from an outside creditor in 1879, one that built the same mill through community-pooled labor and savings. By 1895, 16 years later, the family that borrowed had paid back the original loan plus 40% of its value in interest, owned the mill outright, and had nothing left over. The family that built through community capital owned the same mill, had accumulated a second parcel of land, and had extended interest-free loans to 3 other community members, who were, in turn, building assets of their own. The difference in net worth between those two families at the same point in time was, by Ezekiel's own arithmetic, approximately 3 times the original mill value. One loan, one generation, 3 times the wealth gap. That is what Schuldfreiheit means when you run the numbers. It is not frugality. It is the refusal to let compound interest work against you, redirecting that mathematical force to work for you instead. But the first rule alone does not explain the full picture, because avoiding debt only tells you what the Amish don't do. The second rule tells you what they do instead. And this is the mechanism that the financial services industry finds genuinely threatening, which is why you will not find it discussed in any mainstream personal finance framework. The second rule is what Ezekiel called Gemeindekasse, the community treasury. In every established Amish settlement, there exists an informal but rigorously maintained system of internal capital circulation. When an Amish family needs capital to build a barn, start a business, purchase land, cover a medical crisis, they do not go to a bank. They go to the community. The loan, extended at 0 interest by community members who have accumulated surplus, circulates within the settlement. The borrower repays. The capital returns to the pool. And the entire cycle of wealth creation stays inside the community rather than bleeding out through interest payments to external institutions. This is not charity. This is not a primitive credit union. This is a closed-loop capital system that functions with a mathematical efficiency that modern economists have begun to study seriously only in the last 2 decades. A 2018 paper published in the Journal of Rural Studies found that Amish communities exhibit what researchers called endogenous capital sufficiency, meaning that the internal capital generation of the community, sustained through 0 interest internal lending and community labour pooling, is sufficient to fund almost all capital needs without external financing. The system is self-sustaining and self-compounding. Every dollar that would have left as bank interest instead stays, circulates and multiplies inside the community. Ezekiel's ledger documents the Gemeindekasse entries with the same meticulous care he gave to crop yields. On page 23, there is a list of 11 community loans extended in a single year, 1887, ranging from barn construction to seed purchase to land acquisition. Total capital circulated, the equivalent of roughly $180,000 in today's value. Total interest paid to any outside institution, 0. Total interest retained inside the community, 0, because the loans carried no interest at all. The wealth did not leave. It stayed and it built. Now, place that against what happens in a typical American community when the same capital needs arise. The barn gets financed at 7%. The land purchase runs through a 30-year mortgage at 6.5%. The business startup pulls a small business loan at 8 to 11%. every single transaction generates an outflow, a permanent, compounding transfer of community wealth into the accounts of institutions located somewhere else entirely, owned by shareholders who have no stake in whether your community thrives or collapses. The American system is not designed to build your community's wealth. It is designed to extract it, efficiently and continuously, one interest payment at a time. The Amish simply opted out of that extraction mechanism 200 years ago and never went back. And the net worth gap between the median Amish household and the median American household is, in large part, a direct measurement of how much wealth that opt-out has preserved across generations. But there is a third rule in Ezekiel's ledger, and it is the one I find most striking, because it is the one that sounds the most counterintuitive in a culture that has spent 70 years equating wealth accumulation with individual achievement. Ezekiel called it Bodenrecht, the right of the land, or more precisely, the principle that productive assets belong to the family unit across generations rather than to any single individual within it. In practical terms, Bodenrecht means that Amish wealth does not reset with each generation. It does not get divided, liquidated, and spent down every 30 years the way inherited wealth typically does in the broader American population. Land, tools, business equity, and accumulated community goodwill pass intact from parents to children under a structured succession framework that Ezekiel documents in careful detail, with clear agreements about who assumes management responsibility, how non-inheriting siblings are compensated from operating income rather than asset liquidation, and how the productive capacity of the asset is preserved rather than fragmented. The estate planning and inheritance research on this is striking. A 2021 study from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis found that intergenerational wealth transfers in communities with the low asset liquidation rates, meaning communities where assets pass intact rather than being sold and divided, compound generationally at rates approximately 3.4 times higher than communities where assets are routinely liquidated at each succession. 3.4 times. Over 3 generations, a family operating under Bodenrecht principles, starting with $400,000 in assets, does not end up with $400,000 distributed among grandchildren. It ends up with a productive enterprise worth multiples of the original, because the asset was never broken apart, never sold to pay estate costs, never subjected to the forced liquidation that quietly destroys most inherited wealth before it can compound. This is the mechanism that puts the Amish in the top tier of American household wealth, despite average household incomes that are not dramatically higher than the national median. They are not earning more, they are losing less. And what they do not lose, they compound forward across generations in a way that the standard American financial life cycle, earn, borrow, pay interest, liquidate, divide, structurally prevents. I want to be precise about what I am not saying here. I am not saying the Amish system is without cost. The Gemeindekasse requires genuine community trust and social accountability that most modern individualist frameworks cannot replicate. The Bodenrecht succession model requires difficult family conversations and binding agreements that most families avoid entirely. And Schuldfreiheit, in a world where credit access is the assumed baseline for acquiring assets, requires a patience and a willingness to build slowly that runs against everything modern consumer culture is designed to encourage. These are real constraints. But here is the honest mathematical summary. A household that eliminates $7,000 per year in interest payments circulates its surplus capital inside a trusted network at zero cost, rather than paying institutional intermediaries, and passes its productive assets intact across generations will, over a 30-year period, accumulate somewhere between 2 and 4 times the net worth of an otherwise identical household that does not do these 3 things. That is not a projection. That is compound arithmetic applied to the actual behavioral difference between the 2 systems. The wealth gap between the average Amish household and the average American household is not a mystery. It is a ledger, and Ezekiel was keeping it in 1887. I don't have a course to sell you. What I want from you is one specific number in the comments. Just the percentage of your monthly income that currently leaves your household as interest payments, not principal, interest only. Mortgage interest, car loan interest, credit card interest, student loan interest. Add it up and leave the percentage, because that number is the clearest single measurement of how much of the wealth gap between you and the top 1% is being manufactured every single month by the system you are currently inside. The next video in this series goes directly at the mechanism Ezekiel called Zinseszinsfalle, the compound interest trap, and shows exactly how the lending industry engineered the modern American mortgage to maximize that extraction over a lifetime. The math in that one is even less comfortable than this. Stay close.